Good day, everyone. I'm Erica Gajes, a second-year Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English student. Today, I'll be presenting my topic for Ed 202, the teaching profession. My topic is Unit 12, Milestones in the Development of Educational System in the Philippines, focusing on two important periods, the Republic era from 1946 to 1971 and the martial law era from 1972 to 1986. These periods show how education can either build a nation or use to control it. Before we dive into our discussion, let's set our learning goals together. By the end of this lesson, we will be able to explain the major milestones in the Philippine educational system during the Republic and the martial law era. Together, we'll uncover their purposes, policies, and impacts on nation building and social control. We will analyze and compare how education was used for nation building in the Republic era versus social control during martial law era. We will show this understanding through a structured presentation and discussion. And most importantly, we will value the role of education as a force that can either empower citizens or restrict freedom. We will commit to promoting inclusivity, democracy, and critical thinking in our future teaching practice. So our journey today is not just about history, it's about reflecting on how we are. As future educators, can use education to build a society rooted in freedom, inclusivity, and democracy. Education is more than just lessons in school. It reflects the history, politics, and values of a country. For example, after independence, schools promoted Filipino identity to rebuild national pride, to show how education mirrors society's changes and helps strengthen unity. So there are two key periods we will focus on. First, the Republic era from 1946 to 1971. According to Velasco 2024, this was a time of rebuilding and nation building. For instance, the creation of the Department of Education and Culture in 1947 helped manage schools and promote Filipino culture. The purpose of this was to strengthen democracy and national pride. Second, the martial law era from 1972 to 1986. As De Jesus and Basic 2023 explain, this period emphasized control and manpower development. For example, vocational training was prioritized over liberal education. The purpose of this was to support Marcos' New Society agenda, focusing on discipline and productivity rather than freedom of thought. Together, these milestones highlight how education mirrors society's struggles and goals. Let's explore how these changes shaped our system. First, let's look at the Republic years in 1947. The Department of Education and Culture was created to manage schools and promote Filipino culture, according to Campus 2023. For example, it centralized the management of schools and cultural programs. The purpose of this was to strengthen and unify education under one system. 2 years later, in 1949, the Education Act declared education a basic right, according to Law et al. 2023. For example, this law guaranteed access to schooling for all citizens. The purpose was to promote equality and democratic participation, ensuring that education was available to everyone. This period also saw the expansion of universities and teacher training programs, according to Campus 2023. For example, institutions like UP, Ateneo, and normal schools grew rapidly. The purpose was to produce professionals who could help in nation building and meet the country's growing needs. Finally, there was a strong focus on Filipino identity, language, and culture, according to Velasco 2024. For example, schools emphasize teaching Filipino history and literature. The purpose was to strengthen national pride and unity, helping students develop a deeper sense of being Filipino. Next, let's move on to the martial law years. In 1972, President Marcos declared martial law and reshaped education under his vision of the new society, according to De Jesus and Basic 2023. For example, schools were directed to promote discipline and nationalism. The purpose of this was to align education with government ideology and ensure that schools supported the political agenda. This curriculum also shifted toward values formation, vocational skills, and manpower training, according to Panta 2025. For example, there was strong emphasis on technical vocational subjects such as industrial arts and practical skills. The purpose was to prepare students for job and economic productivity, supporting Marcos' drive for industrialization. At the same time, student activism was suppressed and textbooks were censored, according to Law et al. 2023. For example, student protests were banned and critical materials were removed from classrooms. The purpose was to limit dissent and control information, preventing schools from becoming centers of opposition. Finally, education was used as a tool for propaganda and social control, according to Campus 2023. For example, textbooks were revised to highlight Marcos' achievements and promote loyalty to his government. The purpose was to maintain political power through schooling and ensure that education reinforced the regime's authority. Overall, during martial law, education became less about freedom and more about control, shaping students to fit the government's vision rather than encouraging independent thought. Here's the difference between the two periods. During the Republic era from 1946 to 1971, education was centered on nation building and democracy according to Campus 2023. Education also promoted Filipino identity according to Velasco 2024. In contrast, during the martial law era from 1972 to 1986, education shifted towards social control and manpower development according to De Jesus and Basic 2023, and at the same time, there was limited academic freedom according to Campus 2023. So while the Republic years focused on building a free and proud nation, the martial law years turned education into a tool for control, productivity, and political power. So, to sum up, the role of education in the Philippines changed greatly across these two periods. During the Republic era, education was designed to build national identity and democracy, In contrast, during the martial law era, education became a tool for control and economic goals. So the key lesson here is that education can either empower or restrict people depending on leadership, according to Law et al. 2023. For example, when leaders value democracy, schools promote participation. But when leaders value control, schools limit critical thinking. The purpose of these reminder is to show how us that education is never neutral. It always reflects the priorities of those in power. Finally, as future educators, we must ensure that education promotes freedom, inclusivity, and progress. For example, by designing lessons that respect diversity and encourage critical thinking to inspire teachers to use education as a force for positive change in society.